Mount. Back in the 80s, I started studying the book of Matthew, and I purposely started in chapter 9 or chapter 8 because the Sermon on the Mount makes up chapters 5, 6, and 7. And I purposely eliminated the Sermon on the Mount and started after it to get into all the effects of the Sermon on the Mount. And the reason I did that, actually finished the book then in the study and came back and started in chapter 1 and worked my way up, and now I'm in the Sermon on the Mount. But the reason I did that was because I didn't want to get into the Sermon on the Mount at that time because it's like a hole. If you fall in it, you'll never get out. But I'm about to die, so what of it? So here I am in the Sermon on the Mount. Probably never will get out. It is a phenomenal chapter. You know that Luke spreads it around and puts the sermon in various aspects of the book. Like Jesus preached a little of it here, a little of it there, a little over there. Matthew pulls it all together. Probably both are true. Probably it was one sermon. Probably Jesus did preach various parts of this in various other places in connection with other ideas. But Matthew puts it all together in chapters 5, 6, and 7 and gives a flow to it which it's just overwhelming. If you go to the end of the Sermon on the Mount, which is chapter 7, verse 28, you will get the reaction of the crowd to the sermon, which becomes significant. In other words, Jesus had preached this sermon. How did the crowd react to it? Verse 28. And so it was when Jesus had ended these sayings that the people were astonished at his teaching. The Greek word for astonished there is eksplesso, meaning knocked out of their senses. Haven't you seen some folks you'd like to do that to? Knocked out of their senses. In other words, their eyes are bugged out, their mouth is wide open, their chin is on their chest. They're going, whoa, we have never heard. Did he actually say that? We've never heard anything like this. Sermon on the Mount. Now, why was that true? It wasn't because Jesus told some jokes, then ended up there telling some current events, and moved on to a climactic moment that just wasn't that at all. In fact, the very first words of the Sermon on the Mount, which are the Beatitudes, literally begin to do that in their lives. They are so astonishing that they just knock you out of their senses. And he begins with the Beatitudes, which is where we want to start. Because in the Beatitudes, he gives the premise of the entirety of the Sermon on the Mount. In other words, none of the Sermon on the Mount is going to make any sense if you don't get the premise. So we're going to spend our time this morning trying to establish the premise of the Sermon on the Mount so that it'll make sense to you. Because all of these things that Jesus said, like turn the other cheek, go the second mile, all that kind of stuff, do not worry, sure, all that kind of stuff don't make any sense at all unless you get the premise. So the premise becomes absolutely essential. He begins with the Beatitudes. Now, the premise and concept is very easy. In all the world systems, in all the world religions, everything that the Jews knew about, what they had developed in their oral traditions, 613 of them, based on the Old Testament, their whole structure of existence, all the structures of all the religions they had ever known, the ones you know about, all have a common philosophy. I'm here. Here's where I want to go. You can call this heaven, you can call this godly living, you can call this whatever you want to call it. Whatever this is in your mind, you're here, here's where you're going to go. How are you going to get there? That's easy. Work hard. Discipline yourself. Get your act together. Good night. Come to Sunday school on time. What is your problem? That's the system. So you work at it, you develop, you discipline yourself, you pray more, you read your Bible more, you come to church more. And eventually, over a period of time, you work your way up. Now, I'm not all I'm going to be, but hey, I'm not what I was. And I like this system. You have no idea how much I love this system. Because that system means I'm here and I can judge you. I can look down my nose at you. With a nose my size, I can do it very well. Because you're not where I am. See, I go to church more than you do. I probably read the Bible more than you do. I sit through more services than you sit. We love that system. Jesus came along and said, I'm going to whack you on the back. Congratulations. What everybody else makes you earn, I'm going to give to you. It's yours. And he gives the Beatitudes, which state that premise. And every single Beatitude, there's 8 of them, by the way, every single Beatitude walks you through the blessed are. Now, you realize in the Greek language the word are isn't there, but in the English we couldn't stand that with not having a verb. So, but the actual thing is just blessed, which is all about a whack on the back, which congratulations. Well, oh, you're so fortunate. Well, good for you. Well, you've arrived. Wow, you're in. Woo! You've made it. Hey, relax. You're there. Congratulations. Blessed. That's the word. Now, if you approach the Sermon on the Mount as a mountain climber, because it's a Sermon on the Mount, if you approach it as a mountain climber, you're going to get yourself worn out. You're going to get about halfway up and just absolutely collapse and say, oh, I can't go. And you will realize that if you ever got to the top, the altitude is so high and the oxygen is so thin that you couldn't live there. So you would have to come back. You would have to, the best you could. If you approach the Sermon on the Mount like a race car driver, you would realize that, oh, I'm going way too fast. Here comes the first curve. And you're not going to make it. If you approach the Sermon on the Mount like a builder, you bring all your tools and all your equipment and you're ready to go and build this Sermon on the Mount, this life of the Sermon on the Mount. You're going to come and find out, oh, good night. It's already built. It's turnkey finished. No repair necessary. No adjustment needed. Just move in. If you come as a philosopher, oh, I'm going to discover and work out great truth, you're going to find out, oh, there's nothing to argue about, there's nothing to debate, there's nothing to discover. It's a person. And his name is Jesus. And all I need to do is be a lover of Jesus. And I'm in. That's the whole Sermon on the Mount. So if you make any approach to this book, any approach to this Sermon on the Mount, outside of I'm going to be an aggressive lover of Jesus, I'm going to give my whole life to you, Jesus, I'm going to be intimate with you, Jesus, I'm going to be one with you, Jesus, I'm going to be all wrapped up in you, Jesus, you're going to be my life, Jesus, you and I are going to be tight, Jesus, you will have missed the whole thing. That's the only thing that makes sense in the whole Sermon on the Mount. So he starts out with whacking you on the back saying, congratulations, you're in. You've made it. Oh, you're so fortunate. Whew, you're there. Good for you. Now, the interesting thing about the word blessed, it's the Greek word makarios, and the interesting thing about the word is it has the idea of God taking his gigantic hand and literally sticking it into the middle of your existence and messing with your circumstances. Which you would normally say, oh, that would be great. And you are blessed. Why? Because God is, therefore you're blessed. But the interesting thing about the word is, every time God does this, you ready for this? Every time God does that, you end up in suffering. So when you are blessed, get ready to suffer. For instance, Mary, isn't she something? Pure virgin, beautiful young lady. She is blessed of God. Out of all the women in all the world, she is the most favored, the blessed, going to be the mother of the Son of God. Oh, she is so blessed. Yeah. Her friends are all going to talk about her. Her mother and dad are going to wonder, what is going on? Her husband-to-be is, oh, what's happening here? She's going to run for her life from the king, Herod. Blessed? And you could just walk through the whole New Testament. The people who are blessed, yeah. Flip by jail, bleeding back, hands in the sock, woo! Blessed. You sure you want to be blessed? So this is a whack on the back. Congratulations. We're not talking about, congratulations, you're in, you're there, and he gives 8 of those. And he starts out with his premise. Verse 3. Blessed are the poor. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Nobody thinks that way. Do you think that way? Nobody thinks that way that I know of. I was in a guy's house last week, and lo and behold, walked in. Wow, look at this. Whoa, isn't that, man, 15 bathrooms. Oh. And you know what he did? He leaned back and said, yeah, God has blessed us. Well, how do you know? See, you don't go up to the homeless man, whack him on the back and say, oh, God is sure blessing you, isn't he? Woo! See, obviously, when God is blessing, your kids have straight teeth. When God is blessing, all your bills are paid. See, when God is blessing, nobody gets sick. When God... That isn't this. This is blessed are the poor. But wait a minute, doesn't have anything to do with physical, that is materialism, because it's blessed are the poor in spirit. If I take you and slit you down the middle and literally crack you open and go to the core of your life, what do you want to call that? The core of your life, what produces you, what makes you who you are, what causes you to think like you think, do what you do, the resource, the very essence of your existence, slit you down the middle, go to the essence of your existence. The Bible calls that heart. If you want to call it soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, don't care. But the Bible calls that the heart. He says, at the core of your system, oh, congratulations, you're in. Why? Because at the core of your system, the heart of your being, when you go to the very inner resource existence of your system, you have nothing. You're helpless. The Greek word for poor here, there's another Greek word, by the way, for poor. There's a widow who had 2 mites. There's a word for her. That's not this. This word is absolutely without any resource at all. This is cringing poor. This is cowering. This is covering your face. This is extending your hand. This is, oh, if you don't help me, I won't make it another day. This is absolutely stripped down without any resource at all. And he's come along and took this crowd and whacked them on the back and said, oh, congratulations. You have absolutely no resource at all. You are totally helpless. What a loser. Crawled out of bed this morning, got myself up, came to church for a word of encouragement. He stands up there and said, you're a loser. I know. This is what knocked them out of their senses. To whack a guy on the back and say, congratulations, you're absolutely helpless inside. And you understand, ladies and gentlemen, don't need to explain it to you, that is contrary to every bit of thought process that I've ever heard in my entire life from my world. When I was growing up, we talked about inferiority complex. Then we found out we didn't have a complex, we were just inferior. So we changed it to low self-esteem. And we don't want our kids to have low self-esteem. So what do? Kid is born. Put a ball glove in his hand, man. Teach him how. Teach him that something. He's got to do one thing really good so he can feel good about himself. Jesus is talking the exact opposite. He says that the ball glove in the hand, all the other stuff that you make yourself feel good about because I can't do everything. I got that. There are some areas I'm helpless in. Cooking, for instance. So I got that. I got that. Doing dishes, I don't do that well. I got that. But there are some things see, I can take a ball bat and I can hit a ball over the fence and collect $1 million contract. So Jesus says that's a Band-Aid, man. You're covering. Well, hey, I'm an electrician, brother, and when they got electrical problems, they call me because I'm a plumber and listen, I'm an accountant. I know how to spend money. Well, so does my wife. But I can't do everything well, but hey, he says that's a Band-Aid, man. You're covering. Because while you may be able to take a ball bat and hit a ball over the, whoa. You can't get along with your wife. When it comes down to attitude, when it comes down to your body drives, when it comes down to the discipline of your life, being the kind of, when I slit you down the middle and go to the core of your life and I examine you there, what do I find? Hitting a ball over the fence you're helpless, man. Now, why are you that way? You're not that way because you've sinned. You're that way because, God has created you to be that way. You're supposed to be that way. Woo! That's why He's congratulating you. Cool. Congratulations. You're absolutely helpless. Why would He create me that way? You were created to be dependent, not independent. Come on, you know what the first sin was. The apple thing. The first sin was, I want to be, our brother said it so beautifully this morning, I want to be more than God. See, I want to be. So the very heart of sin is what? Not embracing my helplessness. So Jesus comes along and whacks us on the back and said, woo, congratulations, you're in. Because you're absolutely, totally helpless. You are absolutely without resource. You absolutely can't pull it off. You absolutely can't get it done. Helpless. Well, what am I supposed to do about that? That's the second beatitude. You're to mourn. What's the mourning deal? It's the strongest word for grief. It's the couple that's been married for 80 years, and one of them has just died, and it's just, how do you ever get over that? I talked to a lady who had lost her husband 10 years ago. She's still mourning. She's still got a hole inside. She's constantly aware He's not there. Jesus says, that's what I want you to do with your helplessness. I want you to embrace your helplessness, and I want you to live within the boundary of that helplessness. I never want you to step out of that helplessness. I want you to constantly be aware of it. In every situation, I want you to come back to your helplessness. The minute you get cocky, the minute you step out of that helplessness, you've blown it, man. The minute I can handle this. You stepped overboard. I want you to live consistently, constantly, day in and day out, in all relationships, in every activity, in everything that's going on, in every attitude. I want you to live in that helplessness. And if you will do that, you know what will take place? He said, comfort. It's the paraclete. It's the word for the Holy Spirit. The very essence of the resource of God Himself will come and merge with you. And in the merger with you, you know what's going to take place. In the merger with you, do you realize what's going to take place? You're going to become the kingdom. In other words, the kingdom is the merger between you, your helplessness, and Him. And in that merger, the new creature is created. And that new creature is called kingdom. That's phenomenal. Now, Paul talks about the body concept, that the body of Christ is a reality that you're this finger, I'm this finger, and we're all connected and I got that. And that is true. No problem. But this is another concept, another aspect of that concept. And this aspect says, no, hey, we are connected, but not in this concept. The whole kingdom somehow is right here in the connection of my helplessness and his overwhelming resource merging together. And we form the kingdom. God can't be this on his own. At least he decided not to be. I can't be this on my own. But when the two of us come together, this new thing is created. How do you describe that? See, what he's talking about is not, I had a touch from Jesus. He touched me. We're not dealing with that. That's not this. As Jesus passed by, we're not dealing with that. We're not dealing with Jesus passing by. I got a miracle. We're not dealing with that. That's not what this is about. This is about merger. Well, I went to the altar and I sure felt better. We're not talking about that. We're talking about merger. Merger. We're not talking about, hey, I pray 2 hours every morning. We're not talking about that. We're talking about merger. Not that any of those things are bad, but we're talking about merger. Merger. You get merger? Oxygen. You breathe it. Hydrogen. I have no idea what you do with that. But oxygen and hydrogen, when they come together, form a brand new creature called water. You drink it. Well, oxygen can't be that on its own, right? Oxygen is not water, people. Well, hydrogen, no, but together. Do you get that? See, Christianity is this. Well, he's my counselor. I don't need a counselor, because if he counseled me, I couldn't do what he told me to do. Well, gives me advice. Well, man, people are always giving me advice. Good advice, but I don't follow it. Why? See, I know what I ought to do. That's not the problem. The problem is I can't do it. I love to preach to the guys in Wilson County Jail, our county, because you can look them right in the eye and say, have you done your best? Yeah. Did you give it everything you had? Yeah. You were just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Yeah. You meant to do good? Yeah. Did you do your best? Yeah. Where'd that get you? Would you admit with me this morning that my best hasn't pulled anything good off? My past record of failures yells at me, you're not at it. Hey, I'm not even bad, people. It's not that I'm bad. It's just that there's too many variables to this thing. I had it all planned out just the way, and boom, something happened that I didn't know that was going to, I wasn't aware. I didn't even calculate it into I do my best and it still doesn't work out. Why? Because I wasn't built to do my best. I'm helpless. So when you say, well, I did my best, well, I'm trying, well, I'm working on it, well, God's not done with me. Well, you know what you're admitting? You're admitting you're helpless and that you can't pull this off. And the life is bigger than you are. And you can't be the dad you ought to be, and you can't be the mom you ought to be, and you can't, and you can't, and you can't, and you can't. But then you weren't built to be. Why? Because you're helpless. You were built to be dependent so he could come and in your helplessness merge with you. And in the merger, do you realize that is a shift in thought process and in language? I'm living my life for Christ. Isn't that ridiculous? No. I'm living my life for Christ. Oh, that's good. No, it's not good. I'm living my life for Christ. What are you doing, living your life? Do you know what that obviously the next statement should be? I'm living my life for Christ. The next statement should be, isn't he lucky? Applaud God. I'm working like a dog for you. What more do you want? Whoa. See, Christianity is not you living your life for Christ. It's Christ living his life through you, which is not all again. It's a merger thing. Well, I'm serving Jesus. Could that be the reason the church is in the state it's in? Because we're serving Him. Well, I'm preaching that's the best I can. Teaching the class the best I can. We're ministering to our community the best I can. Could that be the problem? Because this is not about our best. This is about I'm helpless and He's coming. Whoa, something is happening in a merger that is so phenomenal and so beyond. So it shifts from my ministry. What if it wasn't my ministry? Wouldn't it be interesting if this is not about talent? This is about Him. And don't you think it's significant that He chose 11 disciples from Galilee who read comic books and listened to country and western music? He didn't get anybody from Jerusalem, where the big boys live, the guys who wrote the fat books. Isn't that interesting? So you see, when I got talent and I depend on my talent, oh my, that just became an idol and it's no longer Him. And so it's not the talent is bad. It's that when I depend on the talent instead of Him, He can't use the talent. It isn't that education is wrong. It's when I depend on my education instead of Him, then I operate out of my own brain and I don't embrace my helplessness and I create an idol and I'm immediately in trouble because He can't flow in His resource. So do you see what He's calling us to? He's calling us to the embrace of our helplessness. And in the embrace of my helplessness, He would come in His overwhelming resource and He would merge with me. And folks, if you don't get this, if you don't understand this, the whole Sermon on the Mount just goes down the tube. It doesn't make any sense. Turn the other cheek. Oh, yeah. You know what the first question is when you say to somebody, you should turn the other cheek? The automatic question is, how many times? Isn't that the issue? Yeah, you hit me here. I say, okay, hit me here. Then you hit me here. I hit me here. Well, how many times? When can I flatten you? When is enough enough? See, that's the automatic question, which tells us we didn't get the premise. We didn't get the premise. Go the second mile. And what's the automatic question? Well, after I've gone the first mile because the law said to, I generously went the second mile just to help them out. Then they want the third, the fourth, the fifth. When do I drop their stinking packages and say, calm yourself? Immediately we know you didn't get the premise when you ask the question. Because that isn't, see, the Sermon on the Mount doesn't make any sense. Turn the other, no, not unless you're helpless. Filled with Him. Do not worry. That's the stupidest idea I ever had. Who's not going to worry? Well, I'm concerned. I don't worry. Oh, come on. Play the game. But when it comes down, I'm scared to death and I'm anxious and I live in anxiety and I live in, why? I haven't embraced my helplessness. And He hasn't come in His. Now He says, guess what's going to take place? When you embrace your helplessness, and He comes in His overwhelming resource, all the rest of the Beatitudes begin to spill through your life. Meekness! Who's going to be meek? Not the arrogant. Not the one who's got it all together. He's not meek. Who's the meek guy? The one who's helpless, who's totally depending on the resource of another. Who's going to spill forth with mercy? Oh, the one who is helpless and received the mercy of it. Oh, he's going to, and in the embrace, mercy's going to, I'm going to be full of, who's going to be filled? Hungering and thirsting and being filled. Oh, the one who learns in school, not the guy who knows it all, the guy you can't tell anything to, the guy who's helpless and says, I've got to be filled. I want to learn. I got to know. He's the one who, and in that, you become filled. And all the Sermon on the Mount, all the Beatitudes begin to spill out of this precept, this premise. Okay. Could I propose to you that whatever issue you could be dealing with in your life, relational, family, maybe not even of your making, boss, job, finances, body drives, habits, whatever, doesn't matter. Whatever issue you're dealing with, could I propose to you the core central issue? It's not the habit, not the relationship, not the boss, not the finance. It's embracing your helplessness. So how are you going to close this service? Going to ask you to get out of your seat and kneel at an altar of prayer. Well, I'm not going to do that. Why not? Well, my wife will think I'm saying she's right. See where we are? See where we are? So why is it so hard for us to admit, I'm helpless? And live in that. See, I'm not just helpless in this situation. I am helpless. And ladies and gentlemen, Wesley was right. One split second without Jesus, I'm a devil again. I'm back in the same old slop, man. I'm flat on my face. Why? Because I can't pull this off. Why do you know? Because I've tried. I've tried. And I've done everything that all of us have done. I got educated, purdied my face as best I could, developed my muscles, as scrawny as they are, got a nose job, should have seen it before. And still couldn't make it. So why don't I just kick off my shoes, lean back and say, hey, I'm helpless. Would you come? And could I bring the situation that I'm struggling with and embrace it in my helplessness and let Him come in the middle of that scene and merge with me in that scene?